And good evening and welcome to the January 13th meeting of the Murfreesboro City School Board. We're glad to have you here, or we're glad to have you watching on television, whichever the case. At this time, I'd like to ask you to please stand as we honor our country and our nation's flag with our pledge, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Thank you, Ms. Rainier. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, sir. Mr. King? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? And there are none, of course. Okay. Communications. Dr. Gilbert?
Yes, we'd like to announce that January 25th through the 31st will be School Board Appreciation Week in the state of Tennessee, so we certainly will be appreciating you at least that week. Of course, we appreciate you every week, but I think we'll be more demonstrative with it that week. So that has been announced by Governor Haslam, and certainly we want to recognize you. Mitchell Nelson has several thank yous. They would like to thank Ginger and Danny DeBrumbrium and Sinking Creek Farms for their donations and support of the Gardening Club. This is one of numerous clubs that Mitchell Nelson has. They've been teaching the children about organic farming and beekeeping and composting, and they donated the first Mitchell Nelson compost bin and also have donated specially designed T-shirts for the club members. Mitchell Nelson would also like to thank MTSU professor Dr. Rick Cottle and his textile merchandising students. They are from a College of Behavior and Health Sciences, which we have a very strong partnership with that particular college, and they are working with the Beauty Inside and Out Club. They've been teaching the students about fashion, body image, Photoshop, and have taught them how to make scarves. And then finally, they would like to thank Stones River Baptist Church for their generous donation to their field trip fund. Discovery School at Bellwood, and at the next board meeting we will actually feature this group, and I've asked Dr. Burt to come and to show you what they have done as far as their robotics, and so the public can also see it. I think that Channel 3 has already featured them, but we felt it was important to present them before the board because they were the only elementary school to compete at the best robotics competition at Lipscomb University. If you've not been to that, it's really an amazing feat. It's almost like a sports arena. Well, it is held in a sports arena, but it has the feeling of a sports event. The competition is just amazing. And they actually took second place overall there, and that allowed them then to go to Auburn. Not only did they take second place at Lipscomb, but they also came in second place overall in the categories of Best Web Page and Best Middle School. When they were at Auburn, they placed third in the category of Project Engineering Notebook, and they gained a spot as the only elementary school to place in the top 15. They placed 12th. And the thing that I think that we need to remember with this is most of the folks they're competing against are high schools. So that makes it extremely unique and unusual for an elementary school to compete in this, first of all, and then to do as well as they have done. So great kudos to Dr. Stacy Burt, to Dr. Linda Clark with her support, to the parents because they are certainly involved. Central Middle School, some of the students there that had been at Discovery came back and did some work. So it's just really amazing what they have done there. So congratulations to Discovery School for that. Also, Hobgood would like to thank the Price Foundation. This is the David Price Foundation for donating toys and toy chests to Hobgood students. And then last month, the BEP Foundation awarded 5 Murfreesboro City students mini grants. Teachers mini grants. And some of these folks, I'd like to acknowledge particularly Debbie Hickerson, Luke Dickerson, and also Stacy Burt. Have numerous times they have written grants. Now, some of the others may too, and if that's the case, I apologize. But Debbie Hickerson received a grant for locally grown space food. Stacy Burt at Discovery School for Programming is Play, and Debbie, by the way, is from Castle Lane. Luke Dickerson at Northfield, Better Beesness. Shannon Harvey from Reeves Rogers, Moss Art, and Living Art Wall, and then Shannon Minner from Rees Rogers, Invent to Learn, Makerspace Science. So congratulations to those 5 teachers, and thank those teachers also for going to the trouble of writing the grant and receiving it. I do have 2 dates that I'd like for you to put on your calendar. On February 6th at Stones River Country Club at 7 o'clock, we'll be honoring Tommy and Jeannie Bragg for the Excellence in Education event by the City Schools Foundation. That should be a super event. And I'm actually going to ask Lisa to come up and say something about that in just a second. And also, the African American Cultural Celebration will be January 29th at 4 o'clock at Patterson Park. Lisa, if you don't mind, the reason I would like for you to come up, I know there was an excellent meeting today of the foundation, and things are in place for that. If folks want tickets, they can certainly go to the City Schools website and go to the foundation part of the website and find out information there, or they can just call the City Schools at 893-2313 and talk with Lisa about that. But would you take just a minute or two to talk about the plans for that night?
Sure. This is the annual Excellence in Education Gala. Again, it is Friday, February the 6th at 7 o'clock at Stones River Country Club. We are honoring Tommy and Jenny Bragg this year for all of the work that they've given to our city and to our school district. And our featured school is Mitchell-Nielsen Elementary, or Mitchell-Nielsen Schools. It is a lot of fun. It is a large fundraiser, and we only have 2. The foundation has 2 each year. The Excellence in Education Gala, and then the fashion show. So anyone who would like to come out, we would welcome you. If you want more details, you can go to cityschools.net. You can also go to the cityschoolsfoundation.com, or you can simply call me. I'll be glad to answer any of those. And we look forward to having the board members there. And we've had a great, Doug and Susan Young are our chairs this year, and they have done a tremendous job. We have lots of great sponsors, so we think it's going to be a really successful event again.
Any questions about the foundation event or any other communications?
No, but I think it's great that Mitchell-Nielsen and the Braggs are being honored together because there's a different school every year. Mm-hmm. But the Braggs were the PTA chairs at Mitchell-Nielsen, and their children went to Mitchell-Nielsen. So I think that says a lot. I'm glad that they're doing that together.
It's also the 50th year for Mitchell-Nielsen Primary. So
really?
Yeah. So they're having an anniversary, and the Braggs were so very vital in that school while their children were in school there. So it works really well together.
Yeah, it's great.
And the final communication, early this morning, Collier sent an email or a message to us, and I'd like for you to share, Collier, what that message said, if you don't mind, please.
Go ahead.
Well, not only as a school board person, I'm also a parent, a Discovery School parent. And so the parents and the teachers were very excited today to learn that the Discovery School has achieved status as the #1 elementary school in the state. We're very, very excited about that. It was based on, I believe it's based on TCAP scores. So that's a wonderful achievement. And thank you, students and teachers at Discovery School, for your good work.
Very good. And I also will go a little bit further with that, Collier, because after getting your email today, I went and checked. I didn't find 2 of our schools, and that was Overall and Reeves Rogers and Mitchell-Nielsen. But Dr. Gilbert tells me Mitchell-Nielsen is there. But of the 9 that I found, 7 of our schools were ranked in the top 50% of the state, which I think is fantastic for a single system to have that many schools that rank that high. Out of 835, we have done well, and our teachers and our staffs are to be commended for the job well done that they do every day.
Thank you.
I think it's great.
And those are your communication items.
All right. Consent items. Minutes of November the 18th and approval of school fees. Do I have a motion to accept the consent items?
So moved.
Seconded.
Ms. Renier and Ms. Smith, thank you very much. Any discussion? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Thank you. Action items.
The first action item is insurance and update, and although I can handle this very, very well, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert.
You're welcome, Mr. Anderson.
Board members, we have an opportunity here to help quite a few of our employees who are full-time employees that have insurance benefits with us for family and employee spouse. And what those are is the state has a rule that we have to have 45%, we have to cover of all medical insurance plans. We've always been in compliance with that rule until this year starting January, when we are now have to adjust a few of our rates that we charge our employees for that because it's going to fall below the 45%. Those particular categories, as Dr. Gilbert has aligned in her letter, are those two areas of which we have to make some adjustments. Now, the really good news for our employees is they're going to be paying less insurance per month in those categories for the employed spouse and the family coverage. So we're very, very proud to be able to take care of that and add that to us. We really have to do this because of the state regulation. We have, like I said, we've always been in compliance, but now with the new changes, we have to go ahead and do this for this coming year. Average is about $32 a month for the employee and spouse, and roughly $190 per month for the full family coverage. We have approximately 30 employees that are the employee and spouse, and 80 employees that are on the full family coverage. So with that, it is going to cost us more money to do this. We do have the fund balance to cover the difference for the remainder of this year, and then we will build it into the budget for next year, so it will not be an issue to come back at you again. We did not know about this when we had you approve the rates back in the budget cycle back in the spring. So this is new, so we have to come back to you and ask you to please approve the adjustments to this to make sure that we are at the 45% level of funding for all employees, all benefits. As you know, we do 100% for individual coverage if they take our plans, and then as we get into the family coverage, the numbers get bigger and bigger. Family coverage is quite expensive, so percentages then start to come into play, and that's why we have to make this adjustment for you. So if anyone has any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Any questions for Mr. Anderson? Ms. Smith?
So where's the fund balance going to be?
Well, fund balance, we will have the full report of our audit at the next board meeting. Fund balance-wise, we have not spent as much as we had put in the budget, so our fund balance is in pretty good shape right now. In fact, it's in very good shape. So it's really not going to be an issue on the fund balance. We are well within the state's requirement of 3%. So to give you an exact number, I can't give you an exact number at this time because it changes constantly. But we had budgeted to spend about $2 million more this year. We're not going to spend that much more. We've been, as you got your monthly statement, you could see our expenditure rates were less than what we had projected, which is excellent news, which means we're going to be in better shape than we had thought. So fund balance is not going to be an issue at this time.
Great. Thank you.
Other questions? You need a motion to approve this?
Yes, sir. We need a motion to approve that we go ahead and adjust the rates to the employees as dictated by the 45% rule, and that we can utilize our fund balance to pay the rest for this year.
Okay. I have a motion. Ms.
Well,
Renier?
I'd just like to say I'm glad that we're going to be able to help out our teachers in some way. $30 a month may not seem like a lot, but that's one meal probably. So, and the family coverage, I'm so glad that we're able to help them because they always carry the burden of our insurance. So I would like to make the motion that we accept this change.
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. King. Now, any other discussion? Ms. Phillips?
I did have a question. It was probably in the letter, but I may have overlooked it. What's the total cost?
The total cost, we're estimating the total cost for an annualized amount of about $180,000 annualized. So we're looking at for the rest of this year, roughly $90,000.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Oh, we have a motion and a second. Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion passed.
Next on your agenda, we have an EESI proposal, which is an energy efficient school initiative, and I will turn that one over to Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. As you know, we always look for ways to get energy efficiency in our schools and improve our learning environment. And at this time, the state of Tennessee has made available $7 million additional funds to get it interest-free. Now, there is a fee to pay on top of that of 0.75%, but the loan itself is interest-free. We have put together a team, and two of the gentlemen are here with us tonight, David Reese with Energy Systems Group and Lyle Lynch from Johnson & Bailey Architects, who helped us put this together. We have put together a total program of $4.4 million of improvements. The state said they would only grant a maximum of $2.5 million of this. The nice thing about energy efficiency loans is they pay for themselves. For us, it's like we're getting improvements, we're getting renovations, we're getting a change of environments, just better energy efficiency in our schools, and the savings are paying for the loans. So it's a wonderful way for us to go about this. Well, we put together this team, and we spent literally months of going through all the schools, and in your board packet are all of the different proposals that we've put together for that. Some are really helping learning environments. Some are really helping energy costs. We're doing some programs that are not the ones that people see out front, but are the programs that make a difference to the school district in how the learning environment for the kids and how our energy money is spent. We've put together all these different programs. We have approached the city. They seem to be favorable, and I do have to make a presentation to the city on Thursday if you approve this, because we will be paying this loan ourselves, but the city has to guarantee it. That's the state rule on this. The city will have to do the actual guarantee. The school system cannot. But estimated savings is about $345,000 a year if we do these. That will pay off. That will pay our note. So that is where we are on this. What we're asking is for your permission to go ahead and submit this. It has to be submitted by Friday, so the timing worked out great here, to submit this to the state for the EESI loan request and the application that I put in the board packet for you. So be glad to answer any questions. Mr. Reese and Mr. Lynch are here if you have any questions that are of the technical nature above me. But financially, we like it. The city seems to like us. This is the third loan, fourth program we've done with them, and they seem to always be in agreement to do this because it doesn't hit our capital outlay expenditures. We are paying for this out of a state program. So we're excited to bring it to you. You know, I love to find these type programs out there for us. And so if you have any questions for me or for the gentleman in the audience tonight, I'd be glad to help answer those.
Mr. Barrett?
Anytime we can save money, especially on our energy bill, I'm all for it. So, Mr. Anderson, I think, and the other folks involved, I appreciate you finding this and going with it. It's going to be good.
Thank you.
Ms. Phillips?
I'm curious about what kind of cost savings you expect maybe over 5 years or 10 years after the loan, of course, is repaid through.
The annualized savings at this point are estimated at $345,000 a year. So the loan, and the state can establish the loan in varying amounts, either 8, 10, 12 years like that. Typically, they've given us 10-year loans, so after the 10th year, the money automatically flows through to us. What it's really saving us is on the capital outlay expenditure of all these things we would have to be replacing and buying. Because we have, as you know, some schools 50 years old. Even some of our more new schools are in the 20-year category, and some are 10. So overall, we expect to save $345,000 a year after the loan is paid off.
And then how long before that would have to be another maintenance fee? You know what I mean? Do you think? How long will that hold us?
I'm probably going to have to ask the gentleman, what do you expect the life expectancy of these improvements to be?
Right.
On this, because basically the question that's being posed to us is, when we pay off the loan, can we continue to expect this, or are we going to have to go back and redo it again after, say, 10, whatever the amount of years is? Either of you gentlemen like to venture on this? Again, this is David Reese. He's with Energy Systems Group, and he is basically a lot of the way this document was laid out was through his organization.
So it depends on the life cycle of the equipment being installed. The average life cycle for this project is over the loan period. So there might have to be, after the loan period's over and equipment life is over 15, 20 years, a renewal of that same type of program.
Okay. That's what I needed to know. Thank you.
Mr. Barrett?
I noticed where you said there was a limit, right, on the grant funding, 2.5. So are we going to prioritize some of these projects? I'm assuming you did.
Basically, we pretty much prioritize them. When you look at the individual worksheets, you'll see the payback. We believe that the city will be willing to make up the difference in it because we are paying the loan back. In the past, they've been willing to do that. There's also some additional funds that are not in this picture as yet, and that is TVA has reinstituted their program to pay us for electrical savings. And we, of course, don't know what that amount is yet because we don't know what the state's going to approve. Mm-hmm. But those will be additional funds added into the project that will help us reduce it.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Smith?
how long will this take? Like, how long is the plan?
For doing these projects, we anticipate starting these projects this summer. And gentlemen, can they all be done this summer based on what's proposed here? Some we knew we might have to go a little further into it, but most of them, like we did all the lighting upgrades in our schools over the whole summer. So or changing certain pieces of equipment out, we did it over the summer. We're not sure when we get to that point of when the state approves whatever projects, then we can bring you a schedule of implementation. There is an estimated schedule built in here for you to look at, and that's for the overall program itself about getting things started and getting things rolling. That's a great question.
And Mr. Reese's company will do the installation?
Mr. Reese's company is the one that's heading up. It's kind of like the construction management company, so to speak, and I may be saying the wrong term for you. It's a construction build. But what we brought to the team, we brought multiple players to the team. We brought Johnson & Bailey for our architects. We brought Entech Engineering for our engineering, companies that have done all of our projects. We also have Mr. Williford from our maintenance department who is involved. And so we brought other players into this to make sure that we have the whole thing covered.
But when it's carried out, will it be people from that group? Who will carry this out?
Yes, the Energy Systems Group will be the contracted company to do its design build type contract, and they will be doing the actual handling and making sure the work gets done under the auspices of our architect and engineer to make sure they're following what we have established.
I understand.
So they will be the ones handling the work. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Renier?
I just have a question, wondering if this is a typo or maybe you can explain. Most of these show the simple payback as being between 6 years to 18 years, 15 years, but one of them is for Discovery is 80 years. Is that correct?
80 years, that's kind of guessing way out there. But what the situation is at Discovery is we can bundle together fast payback programs with longer term. Discovery School, when it was built, they built the block at the bottom, below the windows, the block, there's no insulation factor there. Oh. It's block and a piece of metal, no insulation. Above it is single pane windows. We feel to help that energy and to help the comfort level in those classrooms and the school, and actually it'll help on noise too, is to have that done. Gentlemen, is there anything you would like to add to what I just said about Discovery? So the payback on that, there's not a great payback time, but for that one, it falls under the learning environment for us and the comfort level. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, that one's way out of the scope, and the state may not approve that one ultimately, but we want to let them know, hey, this is on our radar. It does have an impact.
Well, it's a larger amount of money as well, so...
There's a lot of work to be done there.
Okay. All right. So the 80 years, I'm not crazy then. Okay.
No.
I think the building's not going to last 80 years.
We just never know, you know.
Mr. Anderson, on each one of these projects, the different schools, okay?
Yes, sir.
There's a project cost, and then there's a request from EIP, LP. All right, so if, for example, and because Nancy brought up Bellwood Discovery, I'm looking at that. Project cost $1.2 million. Request $627,000. So the rest of that comes from us.
All right, great question. What that boils down to is we can only get the $2.5 million. So we took that amount, total amount of our package, and then backed out the amount of money that we would have to come up with to make up the difference. So we spread the money over all the projects and the difference. We feel that the city will allow us to use bond money to pay for the difference because we are paying it, the city's not paying it.
Okay.
So it's not coming out of our monies that we have. It's coming out of a bond that we hope the city will do. That's why we need your approval, and we need the city's approval before we present this to the state, because we don't want to say we're going to do this, and then all of a sudden the city says, oh, no, we can't do that. So that's why we wanted to get your approvals along the way before we actually presented it.
I assume that everybody has seen each individual school and the work to be done in that particular school. Am I correct? I hope. If not, you can look at each school, and then if you go down it under eligible projects, it will tell you the things that are eligible to be done in that school with this money. So you might want to kind of look at that sometime. Ms. Phillips?
Mr. Anderson, help me understand. You said we will be paying it back, not the city paying back the bond. Where are we going to get the money to pay back?
Through the energy savings that we'll get from
So that it's
doing these.
okay, we're borrowing it and the energy savings. In other words, we're not going to spend as much on electricity, so that additional money is how we're going to pay back the bond.
Right, and that is exactly how we've done the improvements in the past in our schools. When we did the lighting, it pays for the note. When we did the HVAC at Reeves Rogers, it pays for the note. And that's how we've done it in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Barrett?
I'll make a motion to approve. Oh, you have
One more question. Looking over on the electronic document on I'm on page 17. I was just kind of going through and counting, and my math I may have missed something, but you're asking for 4-point-something million. We think we'll only get 2-point-something. But adding up, it says ECM 01, ECM 02, and I just went in and added everything up, and I came up with just over $3 million. Did I overlook somebody?
I'd have to go back and
I
plug
guess
the
have
numbers.
we mentioned this, and I missed it when I was doing my math? If we're asking for $4 million and we're only given $2 million, how do we determine what is and is not done? Or do we do everything but pay the difference on? Like, for example, I use this very top one, the ECM 01.
Where are you?
I'm on page 17 of the document. And it's the metal high-laid replacement, Case and Lane, Black Box, Bradley, Pittard, Siegel, and Scales. Total estimated cost $500,000. Payback 8 years.
7 of 8.
And the reduction is 5 BTUs per square foot. So let's say, like I say, if everything adds up to $4 million, we are given 2. Just for argument's sake, we'll use $250,000 to pay for this, and we have to come up with the remainder $250,000. Generally speaking, is my thought process right?
Yes, we know the state has said they will only give a maximum of $2.5 million to any one system.
Right.
So the difference would be made up by what we have.
Okay, so like I say, if we're asking for 4-point-something, and with the state will give us 2-point-something,
Right.
we've got to come up with 2-point-something ourselves to make up the difference.
Yes.
Okay. So like I say, I was adding all this up, and I just came up with $3 million. And I thought maybe I overlooked something, maybe I miscounted, but
I'll have to go back and look at the numbers on breaking it down.
I had one last question.
Ms. Phillips?
Something Mr. King said prompted a question in my mind. So are we obligated to do these improvements, all of them, with whatever money we get? I guess that's what I need to understand.
The state may actually tell us that you cannot do, we're not going to approve you to do whichever one they say. We don't know. That's why we're giving them knowing that we could only get $2.5 million, we decided to give them more things to tell them, here's our path, here's where we're going. We want to do all these things. And there's more than this we could have added.
Okay.
So they may tell us, no, you can't do whatever one. Pick out one. So then we couldn't come up with that one. Because what the state's going to do is they're going to run it through their team of experts to see if these things will pay back soon enough because they will not loan us the money. Say they give us a 10-year loan, and the mix of stuff we have would take 11 years to pay. They're not going to loan us the money if it goes outside of that parameter.
Okay. So this has to meet their approval as well.
Oh, yes, that's why.
Okay.
We need, it's kind of a step formula, first board, city, state, then it comes back board, city, to get you guys to approve the actual amounts. Because these are estimates now. This is an
Okay.
estimate based
Right.
on the best scenario we could come up with at this time.
Well, based on expert analysis.
Yes,
The other thing that this does is I think, one of the things that there's no question about is that Murfreesboro is in good stead with the state as far as having a track record with this. Whenever you're proposing a grant like this, the one thing this shows is there's the capacity, there's the forethought, there's a laying out a very methodical method, very methodical thought to this. So I think there's real validity to showing here's what we're going to do, here's how we're going to do it, here's why, and here's where we are going to go if we get additional money, so that it's not a one-shot deal that we're just filling out something to get the money, but there's a logistical plan to what we're doing. And so I think there's real validity to taking this approach.
Ms. Smith?
First of all, thank you. Like everyone else has said, it's great that we are trying to be more efficient. Are we voting to apply for this money, or are we voting to take care of all of these needs?
What we're asking tonight is for you to approve us to submit this application to the state and to, well, obviously City Council first, and then to the state. You're not voting for each individual project at this time, because after the state determines how much money they'll let us have, then we have to bring it back to you with some harder numbers on what we're going to be doing. Is we
Right.
also, you're going to have to approve the overall contracts to get this stuff done.
Okay.
We're just asking for permission to submit
So
it.
we're not spending money we don't have.
Tonight, you're not
Not
spending
yet.
anything.
Okay.
We're asking to submit this, because you could still say no at the end
Okay.
of the whole thing, even though I obviously hope you wouldn't, because I think it's a good program.
We're just giving Mr. Anderson our blessings to take to the city council on Thursday, saying that we approve of the concept and the things to be done, and then it'll be up to the city council to determine whether or not that can be done, and then whether or not we can get the bond money and all the other things that go along with it.
Right.
One more simple question. Have these projects been ranked in order of priority or need or anything like that?
Well, we tried to do it based on payback times. You can look at the
Okay.
numbers of years of how fast the first 6 are 6-year payback times. Then it goes to 18 years, and then of course we have the big one at 80 years.
Yeah.
We try to base it on years of payback, because typically
Okay.
the state's done 10 years. So by mixing them, we think we can have a better chance to get more projects.
All right, I think we have a motion on the floor to approve by Ms. Grenier. Do we have a second?
No, I made the motion.
You made the motion, Mr. Barrett did, and you second?
No, you don't.
No, don't have a second.
I
all
will
right.
second it for you, though.
All right.
Thank you,
We
Mr.
should have
Neal.
done that before we discussed. Okay. Any other discussion? All right, call the roll, please, ma'am.
Mr. Barrett,
Yes.
Chair Campbell,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Ms. Phillips,
Aye.
Ms. Vernier,
Aye.
and Ms. Smith.
Aye.
All right, motion passed. Good luck, Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Board, very much.
Okay.
You have a 1-minute break, Mr. Anderson, and then you have to talk again. As you know, the city has a capital improvement plan, and we always submit, and it's a 5-year plan. And so we have been asked to project what our needs are as far as building. I just want to run through, you all know this, but I want to run through this for the public. We had enormous growth this year, and I'm sure that Mr. Anderson will talk a little bit about that. And we had growth even from the time we dismissed school at Christmas until we came back in. So it seems to be daily. But when you look at, even with the rezoning, when you look at that, right now we currently have no room at Reese Rogers, no room at Mitchell Nelson, Black Fox, Bradley, Hobgood, Scales, or John Pittard. We do have some room at Erma-Siegel, but we know a couple rooms there, but we know that there are apartments being built there, and there are also houses going up in that area. So we expect that school to fill very soon. Do have some room at Northfield, but that school is also filling up. We have a couple of rooms at Cason Lane. One of those will be taken, I'm sure, with probably a special ed pre-K, because we'll be adding a room there, I'm sure, before the year is over. And then overall, which is a 1,000-student school, is already at 580. So what we are asking tonight is you give your blessing to what we would like to submit for the capital improvement plan. And at that point, I'm going to turn this over to Mr. Anderson.
Thank you, Dr. Gilbert. Included in your package is information on 2 schools that we would like to have additions added to. When we first originally started working on Hobgood, we had planned a 3-phase renovation. The first phase was to get some additional classrooms. We did that phase. Then we needed administration space and library space, expanded cafeteria and dining room space, and we finished that one. Well, that school, every time we add classrooms, that school fills itself back up again. So this is the 3rd phase of what we're asking for approval from the board tonight to take and put in the capital improvement plan. Again, you're not voting on it. We're asking you permission to include it in the city's capital improvement plan. And what that is another addition to Hobgood. This time it would be 10 additional classrooms, a gymnasium large enough because we fill the gymnasium now completely. We want to add that gymnasium, music rooms, because they do not have any music rooms. Again, when that school was built, they didn't have these things in the schools. They were just regular classrooms. And so we're asking for that, those improvements there. We would then add 200 students to the capacity of the school. And the cost of that, as is pointed out in your documents, is about a little over $6 million for the construction and design fees. With Pittard being already back up to 1,000 students, with Reeves-Rogers being 450 students at its capacity, with Hobgood being at its capacity, and Black Fox being at its capacity, we need some school space on that side of town. So the first one, I'll give them both to you, and then I want to show you the growth numbers of what's happened to us there. The second one is about Black Fox. And Black Fox is a very interesting one. I went and dug through the old archives and found out when Black Fox was designed, it was designed for 1,000 students. The core is designed for 1,000. In that letter was a statement that said it's designed for 25 students per classroom. Since that school was built, the law changed to 20-to-1 K through 3, which in effect lowered the capacity of every single school in the state of Tennessee when they did that. The school right now is over, you've got in your information, it's over 800 students already. What that told me was that school's core capacity is big enough to handle 1,000 students. But now, under the state's change of the PTR ratios, we can't fit 1,000 students in the number of classrooms we have. So we're asking for 10 classrooms there at that school to give it back to its 1,000 core ability. And we are looking at, and in the diagrams you have, you'll see it goes out into the parking lot where the teachers park now, in that parking lot, and that we would grow the school that direction, but add additional parking out front, where we just have, we have an open field out front of the existing parking. So what we're doing is utilizing our schools to their highest capacity of being able to handle it. And we can't add to John Pittard because of the geothermal fields. We can't add to Reeves-Rogers because it is landlocked. We can't get in and out of that school with any more students behind it. So we're kind of locked in there. There's plenty of land behind Reeves-Rogers, but getting to that land and parking is a big issue there. So what we're looking at is adding to this side of town with these schools, adding to that capacity. So what we're asking for you to do is look at those two. If I could draw your attention to in your board packet is what happened to us. We made the 8,000 students before Christmas. And if you look at the next, I gave you 2 this time. The second one shows the week after Christmas. We came back.
53.
And you'll see that the numbers went from 8,003 students to 8,056 students in that time. Now, that's an exorbitant amount of growth for this district at one time, but that just shows you the city is growing. The city is undertaking right now a 2035 plan, meaning what will the city look like in 2035? And all I can tell you is right now they're showing so much growth for our district that we need to start covering these bases now, or we're going to get caught behind. We have plenty of capacity right now on the west side of town with the opening of Overall Creek, even though in 3 years it'll be a capacity, we believe. But we've got to cover this other side of town. We got the growth coming in with new subdivisions out by Black Fox, where the city's annexed some land there. We got the growth coming in at Irma Siegel with the new apartments. So we're looking at growth coming from multiple areas of the city. So what we're asking for you tonight is for permission to add these two to the city's capital outlay plan, or capital improvement plan, for these two facilities, and then take it to the city to ask them to add that to it. We're also going to be asking for some other things because it's a 5-year plan, and we'll work through those as we get closer to the date. But we wanted to get these on your radar right now, because if we can open this up at Hobgood, not this coming summer, but the following summer, we need to really get things rolling now for the planning and the architectural stuff, and then Black Fox the year after that, open up that one. So that's kind of where we are right now with these two, and that's why they're before you tonight, to get them on that capital improvement plan.
Okay. Now, we need a motion to approve this?
What we're asking for is
want us to...
a motion to allow us to present it to the city to put on their capital improvement plan. And we'll be bringing other ones back to you, but we need to get this one on the radar now.
Okay, let's get a motion and a second, and then we'll discuss. I think that's the way it's supposed to be done, isn't it, Kelly?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So do we have a motion to approve and put it out for discussion?
I'll make a motion.
All right, Mr. Barrett, thank you. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Mr. King, thank you. Now, discussion. Ms. Renier and Ms. Phillips.
If we're going to put these in, hopefully in the capital plan, and you're saying Hobgood, you'd like to see the summer, that would be summer of 2016, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I need to mark this. Summer of 2016, and then Black Fox 2017. Now, do you think that they're going to jump right on and allow us to also add in a new school on the north side of town for the next year? Because this is not giving any relief unless you rezone again to John Pittard.
Yes, we will have to rezone if we do not get a new school soon enough. Since it's a 5-year plan, what we're trying to do is narrow down when we need another new school in the city.
Tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
I think. You know,
That is one of our big concerns, because we have growth on opposite ends.
I know. And do you see any, with the 53 students who enrolled in 1 week, was there a pattern? Are they coming in specific areas, or is it citywide? Because that's why I asked for copies of that, because I couldn't really, I don't know, my printer didn't work and I couldn't get that. Is it specific to one particular area, or just in general everywhere?
It's coming from all different directions, but you can look at, in particular scales, they grew from 876 to 897, so that was a good piece of that growth. Mm-hmm. And basically at this point, Pittard remained the same, but after this report was done, they had more students already registering.
Right.
So it was really, different schools had different amounts that they got hit with, but it was not in a specific area. What we're seeing from the city and the information they send me as far as new development, the new development is still on the west side of town with a lot of new development there. So we have to be attuned to that, but what we're getting is there's available capacity in these other areas based on the fact that there's jobs coming to this area, and any type of open apartment or house that's for sale is getting purchased, which means it's kind of like backfilling on the ones that are available.
According to what the two enrollment figures that you gave us, looked to me like the Cason Lane had the biggest jump, and then Scales, and then probably Overall after that. They were all in double-digit jumps as far as
So that's west.
before Christmas and after Christmas break.
And so again,
So
that's where the
on that
growth,
side of town.
that's where all the new construction is on that west side of town. The good news is that's where we have the most capacity to grow right now. So it doesn't put us into the position of having to grow over there right now. We've got to take care of the other side, like Pitter, that it grew back to 1,000 almost already. And the fact that we opened up Reeves Rogers, and it filled up completely too.
We do have some things that we can do next year that will help. It won't solve it. But, I mean, we need Hobgood to be ready to go by 16, and we really need to have the plans laid out pretty well for Black Fox in case we have to move that up. But we have a pre-K, a regular ed pre-K at John Pittard. We have one at Black Fox, so we know we're going to be losing those. We have one at Scales. We know we're going to have to be moving. So we're going to be looking at moving those in some places. The ideal would be to have those children spread around the city so they can go to school where they're going to be. But with the growth we're seeing, that's kind of been tossed out the window. The other thing that's happening to us, of course, is whenever children turn 3 that are special needs children, then we serve those children. And it takes, we can serve about half the children for special needs children in a classroom that we can in a regular ed classroom. So that cuts back on your usage too.
Case of Lane, is that 1,000 student capacity?
Yes, sir.
Along with Scales and Pittard,
Yeah.
both as
Yes,
well?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, Ms. Phillips?
This is just something to think about down the road. It's something that I had thought about before, and I realize that Northfield is not filled, but of course we had the change with Mitchell Nielsen this year. I also realize there aren't that many lots available for Northfield, but also when you think about it, every school around Northfield is at capacity, and if there were room to add on a wing of classrooms at Northfield and it were rezoned, it would take, in my opinion, some of the stress off of the schools in that area. So it's just a thought to throw out there as you think about this. This takes looking at all your hard work, Mr. Anderson, I appreciate this, and I understand the need to get Hobgood moving.
And thank you. That school was designed at basically the same time frame as Black Fox was, and so we're going to be I've asked Lyle to look into, is there any capacity issues we can do there to add some more to that school as far as for growth. What we're trying to do is get the best utilization out of our buildings as we can, and anything that was made before the law changed, we got to look at and say, okay, they reduced our capacity at that school. And when you have students of special needs in those schools, obviously that reduces the capacity some because of the number of students per classroom, which we understand. And our schools were built, like Northfield was built with a lot of that in it. So even though it may have extra classrooms, it really doesn't have the extra room to grow into because of that. So yes, we are going to consider Northfield as well in the overall process. Thank you.
Ms. Smith?
So these two plans, did I do the math correctly that it would just add 400 more spots?
Right.
And how many additional children have we added just this school year?
We added, since this school year, we added over 500 students, but the vast majority of them were at Overall Creek.
Okay. So how long will this Band-Aid last us? Until we can build
I don't really
have to build another.
I don't really have a great crystal ball on that one to know for sure because
Mr. Anderson.
when I spoke with the planners for the city, they basically said you can throw out all the things you've used to calculate in the past. You can throw them out the window now because of the way the city's growing so fast. We've grown 145, 146 kids on average for 26 years, and this year we grew over 500. That threw a big monkey wrench into the works. So I don't know exactly how many. I really don't. I'm sorry, I can't. And what I know is it gives us a year that we can maneuver, and then 2 years we can maneuver, and then by the third year we have to have this other school open because the city's going to be at the capacities somewhere, somehow.
Thank you.
Ms. Ranier?
So could you, or is that your intention that you're also going to say, we have these plans and we also would like to put the bug in your ear that we need another school probably the following year.
Yes.
2015, 16, or 16, 17, 18.
17.
When they do the capital improvement plan, what they do is they put placeholders
Right.
into the budget years. So we're going to ask them to put a school in, whether they put in year 3, year 4, it's a placeholder for them. And they can move it around because it's a floating document. Because even if we put Hobgood for year 1, Black Fox for year 2, we may decide that we need Black Fox also in year 1, so that it lets us move it around. So yes, and they're getting the same information I'm getting from the people who are doing the 2035 year plan, so they know we're in for a tremendous growth of younger people coming into the city.
It really is a placeholder when you say we want a school. As far as telling them exactly where we need it right now, we can't.
Right.
Because we don't know what's going to happen out on Manchester Highway or Cherry Lane Extension or over on Las Gases. I mean, there's several places that really we could need another school depending on how it happens. But whenever they do a 5-year plan, there's always that placeholder in there for a school. My guess is that they'll probably put it in about the 3rd year is what we're estimating.
Mr. Barrett?
Well, I appreciate you looking at our older buildings first to expand, especially with, it's like a game of whack-a-mole with the population. Fix it here and it expands over here. So I understood right, Black Fox could actually be 2016 instead of 2017 if it's a placeholder like you keep saying.
The placeholder would be for the opening of Hobgood 2016, but design fees would be in 2016 for Black Fox. So if we had to move it fast enough, we could.
Okay.
We could move it, but probably it's going to be 2016, 17, and then moving on.
But the option, if because we're still growing, and if we could grow again.
because that 5-year plan moves forward and backwards, because when we opened up Overall Creek, we had to move it up a year earlier because of the growth over there.
And my other question was, so we're having another gym at Hobgood, so that'll be 2 gyms?
That's a
So
really good
I'm trying to figure
question.
out why we need 2 gyms. I mean, we already have 1. Why do we need another gym?
Dr. Gill, would you like to answer that question?
I'll be happy to, Mr. Anderson. Thank you so much. When you look at Hobgood, and I'm actually going to ask Dr. Garrett because I thought you might have a question about that. Tammy, would you come to the podium? When you look at what we need in that school, the gym that is there is just simply too small. It's too small now for the basketball. When we change the gym, basically we have the stage cannot be utilized well the way it is. And so we're looking for a stage that would be similar to Overall Creek, because right now in the middle of town there is not a school with the capacity to hold the kind of basketball we need. So not only does she need a gym just for her school, but we also see this as a place that could be utilized for other schools too. But would you address that about what you need as far as the gym, because I know that's a concern.
Ms. Smith has attended Hobgood basketball games. Would you like to comment, Ms. Smith?
It's pretty tight. It's pretty tight. I actually am. I wonder about the gym, honestly. But it is a tight situation.
You cannot, if you're a basketball fan, you cannot shoot a three-pointer and get your feet in between the boundary and the three-point line. And it is definitely a safety issue when we're playing basketball. We are at capacity. You cannot put your feet on the floor without your feet hitting the boundaries. If you are a fan, for programs, we can never have an event at night without having it 3 nights in a row, because we just will not hold your holiday programs, your winter band concerts and choirs, things like that. You can't have everyone there. You'd have to have it over 3 nights, because it just will not hold all of our families. It makes it difficult if you have 2 or 3 kids and you go 3 different nights. We do not have a stage, so we cannot have those kinds of performances. But it definitely is a safety issue as well as a hardship on our families, because we cannot hold everyone when we have programs at night.
Now, what we do with the current gym, we're looking at that. We've talked about a lot of different things. We could convert it into classrooms, but there's some other things that we're looking at too to see what we can do with that. But that's something we'll worry about in
So
a
you
few
have some
months.
ideas for the extra
Right,
gym,
we're
okay.
working on that.
Okay.
But basically, what you're looking at is when you look at this layout, it's very similar to Overall Creek, which is a really good thing because that allows us to have what we need there. I don't think you don't have right now. Music is on.
We do have a small room at the present time where she basically stores her stuff, but she has to travel a lot. We have a great community partnership. That's another, I think you addressed that. We'd like a place where we could have a lot of events. It's in the center of town. We have lots of partnerships, people who reach out to us, and we like to have community events, and we just do not have the space that we need for those kinds of activities.
So when you look at the layout that they have done here, it does provide secure place to enter into the gym for those kinds of activities, and really I think would be a great addition.
So it sounds like you have more opportunities to do other things in the community if you had this bigger
Right.
gym than what
And that our other schools could use that are there too. You're right.
Mr. King?
Mr. Anderson, you said, correct me if I'm wrong, Pittard and Reeves Rogers could not be expanded. And right now we're talking about Black Fox and Hobgood. Out of curiosity, can the other schools be expanded or not?
Which ones, sir?
I was making a note, I guess Bradley, Cason Lane, Irma Siegel, Mitchell Nelson, or Northfield.
Okay, Bradley's landlocked. We cannot expand that school any bigger than it is.
Okay.
Cason Lane, there is the same potential there. We have to check the number of classrooms that are available to see. The core is built for 1,000. We have to see how many classrooms and if they've lost the capacity at that school as well. Siegel's in the same boat because those two schools are basically twins.
Yep.
And I'm sorry, which other school?
Mitchell Nelson, I would figure it was built well before the
Yes.
25.
Mitchell
20
Nielsen.
per.
Mitchell Nielsen could potentially. It gives us a new set of problems because the dining room at Mitchell Nielsen Elementary is not big, and that would give us a core issue. The library's plenty big there because it's the old cafeteria, but that gives us some issues there
Same
on that
situation. Yeah, same situation with the gym.
one. Yeah.
And Northfield or is Northfield landlocked?
Northfield is one we need to look at because it's the same basic layout as Black Fox, and we are going to be looking at that one.
Okay. So there's potential at one or two more to expand if we
Yeah.
needed to.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Ms. Renier?
I call the question.
We have a motion and a second. Question's been called for. Call the roll, please, ma'am.
Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Phillips?
Aye.
Ms. Vernier?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Barrett?
Aye.
And Chair Campbell?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Motion passed. Everybody in favor.
Thank you, Board.
Good luck again.
Does a yes count?
Ms. Phillips, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to make one little comment.
All right.
I miss the days when we could discuss philosophically whether large schools were better than small schools, because families typically like a smaller school atmosphere. Research supports smaller schools as far as achievement for the children. However, they're just not cost effective these days. But I'm sad to see those days go. So I had to throw that in. Thank you.
Totally agree with that one.
Okay.
The final action item that you have is approval of the calendar. You remember that there was discussion about the March 1st. I talked with Mr. Odom, and also we received an email from Mr. Zago that said basically that they simply had overlooked that, so they will be taking the March 1st off, and they will be extended their calendar for a day. And that is exactly what you have before you, so we do need a vote for approval of the calendar. Now, if something happens and they change their mind again, then we'll talk. But right now, that's the way they're going.
Have a motion to approve the calendar, the new one as printed. Mr.
So
Barrett?
moved.
Mr. Barrett, second. Ms. Phillips?
Okay. I just had a question.
All right, any discussion?
So, again, just a reminder for everybody at home, how is this different from the county calendar? I know, besides the presidential.
As far as
election.
the, you'll have a little bit of difference in the very beginning and a little bit of difference at the very end, but as far as the days off, for example, they're taking 2 days, well, long story, but their PLC days, their half days line up exactly with ours because we conform to their calendar with that. And so when you look at their start day, their students' first half day is the 7th, I believe. Our students' first half day is Wednesday the 5th. So you'll see that variance, but we should align extremely well other than that.
So like less than 5 days. Okay.
Ms. Smith?
I have one question and one commentary. And the question being is, why is Constitution Day on our calendar?
Constitution Day is on our calendar because there was and you may need to address this, because there is a new law that says that basically we need to signify that, correct?
That's correct. That's my understanding, that there is a law that to recognize Constitution Day, and we do that by putting it on the calendar.
Okay, well, the county needs to do that as well. So, but, okay, my commentary is, my second one, I guess, is that the day, there is going to be a half day on Thursday, September 3rd, because it's a PLC for both school systems. Then the kids go back to school on that Friday, and then they get off for Labor Day. So I do have a problem with that, but I also like consistency with the school calendars, but that's just a little odd.
Maybe one day.
They're not going, I mean, I don't see it. It's just it's to go back, that's weird.
I think part of the feeling there, if my memory goes back to Mr. Marlin, because he was with the county as well, you put the half a day on Friday, and they're not going to be there at all. If you put the half a day on a Thursday, then they've got to come back on a Friday. They come back to school on that Friday. It's not like just taking the full day off. But you kind of remember that, Joe? I think that has been the philosophy with the county. Now, I don't know whether it still is or not, but that's...
Well, right, but it just happens to be the Labor Day is right after that. That in this particular instance, that's anyway. That's my comment on that.
Okay.
It would be nice for families. They could have that time.
Mm-hmm.
We have a motion to approve the calendar and a second, don't we? Or do we?
We do.
We do. All right. Any other discussion? Call the roll, please, ma'am.
Ms. Phillips?
Aye.
Ms. Rainier?
Aye.
Ms. Smith?
Aye.
Mr. Barrett?
Aye.
Chair Campbell?
Aye.
Mr. King?
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. All right, our next item. Kelly, I guess that's you, isn't it?
Yes, this is just being provided to you for information. The board had approved a revision to the city code section regarding the school system, and that section was taken to council and approved, and it has passed all of the required readings before council, so it is now effective. And I had sent a memo out to the board to inform the board of that. And the significance to you of this change is that the board now officially has 2 regular meetings a month, which just need to be advertised as 2 regular meetings a month. And also the date for elections was revised to correspond with the change that was made in city council. So the election for board members will be at the same time as the August general election. Do you have any questions?
Any questions? That is simply for information, am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Budget timeline. Mr. Anderson, I guess that's you.
Yes, I've included for your review the budget timeline. As you know, we do this every year. It establishes when things will be done in the budget-making process. We are obviously into January now. Also included with that is your school board member budget worksheet. That's the next page after that. If you will fill that out and get it back to me so we know what your priorities are for the budget before we actually start putting it together, that's always helpful. We are a little ahead of schedule now. We've done all the things through January. We're up to the board member input now. We've already sent the stuff out to the right people, and so we're getting that looked at. The other thing of importance to you is in April, the board work session to review it. I've given a window there of April 2nd through April 13th, and y'all will just need to, when we get closer to the date, schedule a time to have the budget work sessions so we can go through them. So that's just a window that we put in there to give us time to finalize the budget and get it back in, and then get it to the city council for their review. So just pretty much that's it. We can move that date a little bit around, but that's when we would typically schedule the work sessions.
Ms. Phillips?
Do I remember correctly that some of the board felt like we needed a little more time to address the budget last year? So when we're setting up dates, that's just something we might need more opportunities to meet, to discuss the budget. So that's just something I wanted to remind everyone about.
Yeah, I think we all kind of felt that, and I don't know whether Mr. Anderson is any way to move this back into March some. Also, I thought we now had until May the 15th to submit that budget to City Council according to what's come forth. Am I not correct on that?
Yes, sir, it is May 15th. They've always asked us for it on May 1st, even though the City Council thing that you saw in your board thing, it says the 15th. They've always asked for it on the 1st, so we've always given it to them by then.
But we do now have until the 15th if we need it.
Yes, I believe we actually had that before, just that they've always asked for it on the 1st. We try to provide it to them.
And I think the 15th is the deadline for presentation to council, and the city manager needs it by May 1st to incorporate it into his budget.
Well, I did not remember it as such. I'm not saying that I'm right or somebody else is not, but I thought it said May the 15th was, because I remember the problem we had last year on finalizing the budget before we sent it to them, and we all said we wish we had more time. So either way, if there's any way to get this process started by the middle of March, I think it would help. I don't know whether that's possible or not.
If you want us to, we can move those time frames up. We have our reviews scheduled with individual department heads from February 18th to March 6th, and that's where they come and actually present the budgets. And then we go through and we get the budget for the ESP and school nutrition, since they are separate budgets, on March 9th, the following week. And IDEA and title budgets, we can push it ahead a week if you would like, or 2 weeks. We just need to know now so we can change the schedules.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Ms. Smith?
My understanding from conversations with the council members was that they felt that we needed to let them know much earlier than we did last year what we were needing for the schools. So the earlier that we can back this up, the better. If this is the same schedule that we had last year, we need to bump it.
Well, in the document that we've got, it says City School Board shall prepare a budget showing the proposed expenditures for schools under jurisdiction for the ensuing fiscal year, and shall submit the same to the city manager on or before 15th day of May each year.
That's correct. Just
okay.
We have always abided by their request to have it to them by May 1st.
Okay.
And we give the city manager, we give them copies for every city council member at that time. So it's not like they don't get it till later. They're getting it at the same time. I don't know how they distribute it up here, but we give it to them on May 1st.
I just want to make sure that the council members understand that we need more money to run our schools.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure they're getting the message loud and clear, but I want to make sure that we do our due and well in advance so that they're prepared for the schools when they have to sew up the budget.
If you would like me to adjust this, now is the time to get it adjusted.
I would like that.
Ms. Phillips?
Do I have to make a recommendation that that be?
I don't think
No, let's
so.
just move it back
Okay, just move it back then.
To what date do you want it?
2 weeks before if we can get it. Let's get with our calendars tomorrow.
Additional
Because
2
we'll have
weeks
to
would
let-
be.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. All right.
Could we back up just a little bit, Chair Campbell, if we could, and do the Farm to Garden grant? We'd like to
Yes,
share
ma'am.
that with you if you don't mind. Marilee Smith is the coordinated school health person, and she was very instrumental in getting this grant. It's in partnership with a lot of people, including MTSU. We look at this as a planning grant. We do plan to submit a larger grant when that becomes available, but this will start the process of what's known as Farm to Table. This was the only grant received in the state, I believe, right? So Marilee, thank you very much for that, and if you would share with them what that's going to look like so they'll know, that would be
Yeah,
great.
sure. We did receive the USDA Farm to School planning grant. It was awarded for $40,000 for 1 year, which is this next fiscal year through October the 30th. We were the only grant awarded in the state of Tennessee. We were only one of 16 planning grants awarded nationwide. So it's a very strongly competitive grant. We're very excited to get it. It's going to bring a lot of really neat things to our school system that are going to benefit our students in a lot of different ways. One is we're going to be able to identify locally and regionally produced produce, procure it, and integrate it into our school lunch program, increasing the nutritional value of our school meals, and also supporting our local and regional farmers in that process as well. We are going to get our cafeterias some new equipment to be able to process this equipment so it's fresh, straight from the farm, not packaged and shipped across country. But we're also going to be able to educate our students and staff about the farm-to-table process so that they know where their food is coming from. And part of this, we'll be working with our instruction department to develop curriculum so we can have cross-curricular activities in math, science, and our arts. We will also be hiring or contracting with a farmer educator to be able to maintain on-site raised bed gardens and hoop houses where we'll actually be able to grow fruits and vegetables on-site at our schools and put those directly into our cafeterias. The planning grant calls for us to have one pilot site this year, which will be at Overall Creek Elementary. We are going to be able to start that next month. So it'll be going and moving pretty quickly. The farmer educator, we hope to have a contract secured by the end of the month with that person to be able to maintain this. Another thing they're going to be able to do is to connect the school gardens to our students on site. So they will get that experience as well. We'll be able to really push the farm to school process in a culminating trip in May with your approval for all of our third graders that is paid for by the grant. So it won't be coming out of our school system's budget. They're also going to be receiving quarterly updates from the school to home so that we're involving parents and their other children. And we're going to be able to identify and promote this throughout the community, so we're really involving the community in our projects. We have several district advisory board members that are going to be helping us procure these locally and regionally grown foods and working with us to make sure that we are implementing the grant in the best way possible. We're really doing a really good job of evaluating the grant to make sure that we are doing it correctly and to make sure we have the data to move forward and apply for the implementation grant to be able to take this system-wide. So
That's awesome.
we're really excited.
Yes.
Are there any questions?
Any questions?
I
Ms.
have
Phillips?
one, yes. Congratulations, that is awesome. Sounds so exciting. I can't wait to bring Murph out and learn all
Absolutely.
about farming. But I just wanted to ask you, who wrote the grant?
I wrote the grant
Wow.
with
Thank
the assistance of Dr. Gilbert.
you. Congratulations, that's awesome. Thank you so much.
Very good.
Any other questions? Thank you, ma'am. Job well done.
No kidding.
I also approve Mr. Anderson's EESI, but we don't go there.
Okay. All right, where are we?
Board report, maybe?
We've had the attendance report, I guess.
Personnel,
Yeah.
I think.
Personnel?
Do you have before you your personnel report? If you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer those later, but this is the typical report that you receive every month. And then the other report you have is your attendance report. And so I think that's really all the information that we have tonight for you.
Gee whiz, okay. All right, anything else to come before this board? Ms. Phillips?
I have a question. Is everyone getting their list of activities in the school system? because I haven't been getting mine, and I don't know if it's my mail or what, but that we were getting, I'd like to continue to get those, and so.
Okay, we
I
can
just
do
want to-
that. And we will have activities, but over the next few months, they'll probably be pretty sparse right now. But we'll be happy to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Our next meeting is scheduled for the 27th. We also are scheduled to have a retreat that afternoon, beginning at 3 o'clock here in room 2.
No, it's in the administrative conference room. It's the
Okay.
room that we reserved. So
Which
that
is
would be,
where?
it's, if you go toward the mayor's office,
Okay.
basically across the hall from here.
Okay.
And then if we have a need to meet after that in a regular meeting, then we'll do that at 6 and have time to have something to eat between the two. Okay?
Are you saying that we possibly wouldn't have the regular meeting?
We'll see what we have for the agenda at that time. I think we will meet, but just,
I see, thank you.
okay?
Do we have to have warning that we may cancel, Ms. Baker? I mean, do we have to have notice that?
There's no legal requirement you have to provide notice if you cancel it. We will have to provide information about the special meeting for the retreat.
Okay.
Okay. I would ask you to look at the National School Board meeting being held in March 21st, 22nd, 23rd. We will have some more of that discussion later on at the retreat. What I would ask you to do is to look at that and go online and look at the agenda, look at what some of the costs may be, and see whether or not you think that it is cost effective for you to attend. I know we talked at our last meeting about trying for everyone to go. I don't know what your thoughts are at this point in time, but I would like for you to look at that and look at expenditures as well as we go. Get rid of that. If you think that you would like to go, if you'll contact Ms. Price, she can send in a registration for you, and then it can be canceled without any problem if you decide that you don't want to go. Okay?
What was the date of the early registration?
The 16th.
It's before we have the next meeting.
Which will be this week.
Mr. Anderson, could you possibly let us know if the funds are available in the board account?
Yes, ma'am, be glad to.
All right, anything else to come before this board tonight?
Please be conscious of the legislature and be very attentive to that. I will certainly send you any information that we get from TOS. I'm sure you'll be receiving from TSBA, but I think things will move pretty fast, and so we'll be in touch.
I noticed where Joe Carr now has a radio program on WLAC every morning from 6 to 7, and he had Senator Ketron on with him this morning. I didn't get to listen to all of it, but you can go to the podcast and try to catch some of that to see if there are any ideas on what may be coming up. Mr. Barrett?
Should we plan on any resolutions like we usually done? You know, when we did one for vouchers a couple of years, but then we did the charter fees, or plan on doing that. Should we have that at our retreat?
I
Plan
think
on putting
TS
those?
I'm sorry, I interrupted you. I'm sorry.
Just planning
I
on
think
some resolutions.
TSBA has put out some sample resolutions, if I'm not
We could have some
mistaken.
discussion
And we
about
can,
that. Okay.
yeah, look at that as well.
Okay.
We want to wish Dr. Brown a speedy recovery, and I also hope Mr. Washington gets to feeling better where they can be back with us next time we meet. Mr. King, take care of that shoulder.
I will.
All right. Anything else coming before this board? If not, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Barrett. Second, Ms. Phillips. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you.